Let's go back to the pivot table example from figure 4.18-23 and look at it again. In this case, we now have no data selected. In order to create a pivot table, I'm going to click anywhere in the data that I want to select for the pivot table. When I go to Data and Pivot Table and Step 2 of the Pivot Table wizard, the Pivot Table wizard automatically selects all the contiguous data. One thing that's absolutely essential for pivot tables is that there has to be a label row. Row 1 is the label row in this data set. If there is no label row, the pivot table wizard will treat the first row of the data as the labels. Now I'm going to create the same frequency distribution we had before with the sex variable that is coded F or M, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently than I did it the first time. I'm going to say next here, and the pivot table report tells me it can use less memory if I simply go with the pivot table I had before. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say no. I don't care in this case about the memory. And it says we're going to put it on a new worksheet, and I'm going to ignore layout and just go to finish. Now I have this new sheet with the pivot table here, but there's absolutely nothing, as you can see, in the pivot table. In order to create the pivot table, I'll left-click Sex and drag it into the rows field, and now I have female and male and grand total, and I can pick any variable to put it in the data field as something that Excel can count or add or sum. But again, I'll just pick sex, and it comes in and immediately creates the pivot table. If I don't like that, I can drag it out, and now I'm back where I was. I can put age in there, but now what I get is the sum of ages. In order to get back to the count of ages, I can go to the pivot table wizard and go to layout, and where it says sum of age, I double left click that and select count and OK, and now OK again and finish, and now I have the count.